What up, guys? Today, I'm going to help you get healthy in so many ways. I'm here with Dr. Justin, and we're going to basically run you through how to be healthy as a teenager, as a young adult. We're going to walk you through diet stuff you can do, supplement stuff you can do, natural things you can do, and in a way, sort of educate you on how the body works and why this stuff is really important. I wish when I was younger, I knew some of this stuff. And we're not about to tell you that you have to live some extremely strict lifestyle and cut out everything. We're just going to tell you how to adapt your current lifestyle, make some small changes that will greatly elevate your health. And Dr. Justin, what I want to start with here is basically what's changed my life is how being healthy can make you more successful. Because when we really look at some of the neurotransmitters and hormone function and sort of how that dictates what you do in life and how you feel, I think this is a really good place to start because many young people watching this, they want to be successful in life. Maybe they want to crush it at school. Maybe they want to crush it in a job in the future. There's a lot of young dudes I've met out there that are like, I want to be successful, but health is a major, major factor in that. Why is that?
Very important. So out of the gate, right? Healthy hormones, healthy nervous system function is going to help dictate you using your frontal cortex, right? The more you're overly producing cortisol, right? The more you start to deplete your sex hormones, you don't have the ability to repair your body,
Mhm.
your muscles. You turn over your neurotransmitters too fast. Now you're going to have brain fog, you're going to have anxiety, you're going to have focus problems. And of course, the raw material building blocks, people forget that your brain is like 70% saturated fat and cholesterol. So the more stressed you are, the more you're eating crummy food, you're not going to be able to turn over the building blocks, right? And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, right?
Mhm.
So you need healthy raw material to make healthy neurological synapses, to help healthy brain function, right? Neurological tissue. And then, of course, the more stressed you are, the more you are going to operate from your brainstem and from your amygdala. That's
Mhm.
fight or flight response. And so, to be more successful, you have to be using the frontal cortex.
Absolutely.
And that gets shut down when you're under stress, sympathetic stress. You're overproducing adrenaline, you're overproducing cortisol. It shuts down the sex hormones because your body is always dealing with, it's prioritizing inflammation and stress for now and healing recovery for tomorrow. But when you're chronically stressed, you're chronically putting off the healing and recovery. And
Yeah,
you're not using that frontal cortex part of the brain.
and so for many people, this can start to manifest, and they might not even notice it as poor decision making, maybe attention in school, like not being able to focus on stuff. I think it can manifest in poor relationships. A lot of
100%.
people will want to, have a good social life, get girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever it is, and I don't think they realize sort of how these neurotransmitters and your endocrine system can play a role in what you do day to day. I mean, for anybody listening, the example I use is if I were to inject Albert right now with a bunch of weird, norepinephrine and
Yep.
adrenaline, he would be a completely different human being.
Hmm.
Like we
Hmm.
could we could mess up Albert right now like that. And on a smaller scale, if your neurotransmitter function is messed up, you're just going to feel different as a human being. Can you walk us through some of the neurotransmitters and how they make us feel in life, like what they kind of do?
Yes, you have a couple of families of neurotransmitters. First off, you're going to have your serotonin neurotransmitters. The building block for serotonin comes from tryptophan, and then that gets converted to 5-HTP. Now, when we're supporting serotonin, we tend to use 5-HTP over tryptophan because there's certain enzymes that convert tryptophan to 5-HTP, and you kind of bypass that. So you can get levels more therapeutic. Okay.
Mhm.
And so with all the neurotransmitters, B vitamins, especially B6, are very important rate limiting cofactors. So serotonin is really important. It's a feel good neurotransmitter. It also gets converted downstream to melatonin.
Mm.
So it helps with sleep. And we know sleep is so important for growth hormone, healing muscles between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., and also psychogenic repair, turning over our healthy amino acids that make our brain chemicals.
Mhm.
So serotonin's there. Next is going to be dopamine and adrenaline. They're connected because dopamine is a precursor to adrenaline, right?
Mhm.
And adrenaline has three different words. Conventional medicine loves having multiple words for the same thing. So
Mhm.
you have adrenaline, you have catecholamines, and you have epinephrine and norepinephrine. These are the same, like three things that describe the same thing.
Mhm.
So when people use it, it's this interchangeable. So you have dopamine that gets converted to epinephrine, norepinephrine, right? So the more stressed you are, you actually will pull dopamine downstream. This
Interesting.
is why the more stressed, the more you go out with sleep, the more inflamed you are, you start to get sweet cravings. You start to have inability to focus. Your reward system and how you feel about doing things goes down. You just don't get that dopamine hit from achieving something or connecting with someone, right? And so all these things go downstream. So we have serotonin for mood and for sleep. We have dopamine and norepinephrine, epinephrine, catecholamines all connected there. That's going to be focus. That's an I love you neurotransmitter. That's going to be really important for feeling satisfaction out of doing things. And the next, I would say the big one would be GABA. So GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. That's going to help turn off the brain, help you relax. So when you're in a fight or flight, go, 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 or that amygdala brainstem's going, you're just thinking about fear things, you're just thinking about survival, and you're in this like kind of chronic fear state. And so that helps kind of turn that off and relax the brain.
Gotcha. And so I want to hit on dopamine for a little bit because it's something I think a lot of young people hear a lot. And, there's like this meme of like, oh, we're frying our dopamine receptors by scrolling on, short form media. And then there's a whole other class of things that I feel like young people do a lot of nowadays. One is, I always say the za, but I think on YouTube I can say it, which is cannabis. Like some of these kids are using it very often. I'm obviously not some crazy anti-cannabis guy, but like, when you're 15 years old and you have a pen in your pocket that's like, 80, 90% THC and you're hitting it 10 times a day, that can mess with your dopamine. Another thing that people are doing a lot is Zyn, so nicotine pouches. And as a functional medicine doc, I'm sure you have your therapeutic uses of nicotine and nicotine riboside and stuff like that, which we can get into. But I worry about some of these young people, young men especially, are doing these Zyns like 5, 6, 7, 10 times a day. You're talking sometimes 30 milligrams of nicotine throughout the whole day. And how can different substances and activities we do mess with our dopamine? Let's just start there.
So first off, nicotine is going to stimulate dopamine production, right? It's going to stimulate higher levels of dopamine, but it's like whipping a tired horse, right? If the horse is in the stable, getting rest, being fed right, a little bit of stimulation is fine. Your body can adapt. But when you're not feeding it right, you're not providing the raw material to make it, you're eventually going to run dry where that horse just doesn't respond, right? And so there are therapeutic windows for nicotine, in that lower 5 milligram, maybe 10 milligram level, but people are just going too high. It's the same thing with like THC and vaping. You see just the percentage and the amount just going through the roof, right?
So it sort of desensitizes those dopamine receptors and people don't get the same feeling from it. And then how does that work? Like even from there, people are just like less sensitive to dopamine overall. So they start to get those feelings just like apathy in life, of low drive.
Yeah. Anytime we're trying to support dopamine or a neurotransmitter, we want to provide the raw material building block on one side. I want to support the supply on the other, right? And then I want to decrease the use of it on the other side. And so that may be less screens, that may be, getting to bed on time, getting high quality light, in the early morning, right? Resetting that pineal gland, getting movement, very important, right? So really just having, and obviously the food, right? Because people forget all of your brain chemicals, they're going to come from amino acids, all right? And so if you're in that vegan vegetarian camp, you're probably not going to get enough. Number one, if you're stressed, if you're not making enough hydrochloric acid and enzymes, you may not be breaking that down. And God forbid you have gut permeability problems, maybe an infection, maybe an IBD issue like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or IBS kind of stuff, then there may be more of a deficit there.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's start to get into the food and, days of eating for, a young adult. What in an ideal world would that look like to you?
So protein and fat are the foundations for your meal. So for me, out of the gate, hydration and electrolytes is the first thing.
Yes, first thing in the morning. I've spoken about it so much. It's actually so easy to do, guys. You wake up, you get outside, even if it's cloudy outside, you throw some electrolytes in some water. If you don't want to buy our electrolytes, fine, throw some sea salt in some water. Start there, see how you feel, and get outside, hydrate. Do a stretching and mobility routine. If you have 3 minutes, you could do a 3-minute mobility and stretching routine. It's so simple.
Yeah, exactly. I start my day 20 ounces of water. I put in electrolytes. I try to get enough potassium in there. A good bit of sodium and chloride. I use like a Redmond's Real Salt. I mean, you can use your electrolyte support, which is great too. Making sure there's enough potassium, magnesium. Those are the ones we typically don't get enough of. And then if we're doing sea salt, we want to make sure it's a high quality sea salt. That's going to be key, right? And so I start my day with that, blend that up. And that's the first thing, 20 ounces of water or so. Try not to overly hydrate when I'm eating. So I get that in first, let that absorb in. Get some early morning sunlight, walk barefoot on my patio outside, try to get something going like that. And then protein and fat are vital because of the fact that your cell membranes, they have a lipid bilayer. And so your cells communicate by having a healthy membrane, right? Your membrane is like the brain of the cell. And so the healthier fat you have in that membrane, the better communication you're going to have. So that's vital. And so we want fats that are going to be more saturated, because when you look at the organic chemistry of saturated fats, right? It's a carbon, and then you have 3 hydrogens, and then a single bond to 2 hydrogens, a single bond. So the single bond provides stability for the fat. When you start adding in like omega-3, omega-6, that just tells you where the double bond is located in the structure. Does that make sense? And so double bonds start to make the fat more fragile. And the more fragile it is, now you add heat via an extraction process, soy, canola, there's an extraction process that allows that now to be damaged, and now it's more unstable. And then fats that are damaged become inflexible. They become harder. They become they make up that cell membrane and make it more stiff and not fluid. And so that's the big reason why we want healthy cell membranes, healthy fats. And the electrolytes are really important for the cell, because we have what's called the sodium potassium pump. And how that cell works is this gradient of potassium in, sodium out, right? 3 in, 2 out kind of thing. And if we don't have good, healthy sodium potassium pump going, the cell's not going to function well. And you can see it in heart rate, heart rhythm. You can see it in getting dizzy, right? I mean, this is why people die of hyponatremia, right? You see it around marathon time. People hydrate too much and they get cardiac arrest, right? Because the electrolytes are so important for that heart and that nervous system functioning.
Absolutely. So wake up in the morning, hydrate, and then some foods you like in the morning. Eggs,
yes,
what do you
those
like
are all good. It just depends on where someone's at. So I don't like doing heavy meals in the morning unless I have like a lot of time to relax. I'm not working. If not, I'm going to be doing some kind of an amino acid. I'll typically do like a collagen amino acids, 20 or 30 grams. I'll try to put some really good fats in with either grass-fed butter, ghee, or some MCT oil. Put it in a little bit of coffee or tea, or even bone broth if you're sensitive to coffee. Then you can blend that up and just sip that. It's wonderful. I like the warmness. If you're getting caffeine, protein and fat time releases it. So people that usually are sensitive to caffeine tend to not be, because now it just comes in slow.
For sure.
Right?
Oh, when I was in college, like for lack of a better term for it, like the bulletproof coffee kind of thing, just like saved me, because it saved so much time. Like and then I would start to make basically like a bulletproof protein coffee. Like I'm pouring hot coffee into the blender. I'm putting some protein in there. I'm putting some healthy fat in there. I'm blending it up. Nice, frothy latte, basically pouring that in a to-go thing. And it's like, I'm able to sip on that. And that was my breakfast for so long. Now, luckily I have a bit more time in the morning. I can do my eggs and sweet potato hash and stuff like that. And when I'm in a rush, I just kind of, like I do like a protein shake in the morning. And like that, you want to ideally be able to get something in your belly in the morning.
Some fat, some protein, because fats are going to, especially healthy fats like grass-fed butter or ghee or MCT oil, they're going to provide a bump in ketones. And ketones suppress the appetite, which is great. So if you're getting enough calories, and I use calories and nutrients interchangeable, right? Because if you're low calorie, you're probably low nutrient. When you're eating healthy fats and proteins, there's a satiation feedback loop that makes it way harder for you to overeat. So people talk about calories because it basically puts the onus on the person. You eat too much, it's a willpower thing, and not like the junk, not the actual food quality issue. I want to focus on quality and what it does to the feedback loops. So protein and fat are going to allow you to be satiated. It's going to provide building blocks, especially collagen, for your connective tissue. So that's your hair, that's your skin, that's your nails, that's your joints. And so that's why it's good. We typically didn't need to, because we did a lot more soups and stews with knuckles, with the whole bone in there. And so we don't do that as much. And people sometimes, we get that big cortisol rush in the morning, right? It's called the dawn phenomenon, where that big cortisol rush happens and that can bump up your blood sugar. So I don't like doing a lot of carbs in the morning, because you already have a lot of glucose release because of that cortisol response. And that can make people not so hungry.
Totally.
Right? And so having things that are super easy to digest, and if you don't like coffee or tea, you can always just do like bone broth and put that same thing in bone broth and just sip it. It's easy to digest. Amino acids that are peptide form means they're already broken down. So it's easy on your gut.
And a question I have, I think a lot of people have, is, hey, I'm 14, 15, 16. Like, what do you think about coffee? Is the coffee going to stunt my growth? Is a common question. What do you think about coffee for like that age group?
That's tough, right? I would say if you really want coffee at that age, you can go decaf. Decaf is going to be 95% caffeine free. Your typical cup of coffee is going to have 100 milligrams. Decaf will have 5. Make sure it's a Swiss water process or a CO2 process that pulls the caffeine and extracts it out in a non-chemical method. A lot of the chemical decafs are not good, so make sure it's CO2 or Swiss water process. But yeah, at that age, you got to be a little bit careful. But again, Caffeine totally changes when you have it with fat and protein.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always recommend probably decaf at that age. And, you
Yeah,
can
you
always
got to
do
think why do you need 100 milligrams of caffeine? I mean,
some green
caffeine.
tea.
We're both fans of caffeine when timed right.
Yep.
I would say in the right context, but yeah, I gotta think if I had a 14-year-old kid and he's like, I want a huge cup of coffee, I'd be like I don't know. Yeah,
Especially boys and kids, they're already a little bit over energized
yeah,
sometimes.
for
And so I'm
sure.
not sure I want to overlit that up, especially if my kid's going into a classroom setting where he has to learn. He may have too much energy where he has to go do something. So
Yeah,
I think you got to individualize that.
for sure.
And you could always try it, see how you feel, and
Yeah.
just look at it objectively. But I would lean to probably no at that age. But once you get a little older and you have a little bit more introspection capacity, then that's fine.
So for a college kid now, looking at coffee, let's say you're 21 or whatever. When do you like to cut off caffeine? This is a big thing. People miss
At
time.
least 12 hours.
12 hours.
At
Yeah,
least
because
12
that
hours.
half-life, and then there's genetic factors that can
Mhm.
extend the half-life. And what we try to tell people is with this half-life of caffeine, when if you have that 2 p.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m. cup of coffee, it's no different really than taking like a little caffeine pill right before bed.
Mhm.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, people they say, "Oh, I can sleep after I have coffee." And there's studies showing, yeah, you might be able to fall asleep, like your sleep latency is there, but your sleep architecture is all messed up. Like you're not going into the same deep stages of sleep.
Correct. You can get a readiness score and you can look at it. I'll do a little bit of decaf, but 100 or 200 milligrams is different than 5.
For
Right?
sure.
That's a totally different animal. But yeah, check out your readiness score. Check out your HRV if you have like a Fitbit or an Oura Ring
Hmm.
or a Whoop. Check it out and see where you're at. Test it. That's people over stress about those things. I have people that are like sleeping good, have a good routine, they're like doing the right stuff, and they're stressing out. And I just say, well, just look at it, add new interventions, and see if it gets better.
Totally.
Nighttime routine, magnesium, get grounding at night or in the
Mhm.
morning, cold shower, just add a variable in, make a note on your phone about what variable and what improvement.
For
On
sure. I mean,
average.
that's the big thing with health. It's like trying different things. You're running experiments on yourself to
Yes.
find what works for you. Everybody's unique. So now they've gotten this breakfast kind of template in, and now oftentimes these people are going to a job or going to school. Lunchtime comes around. What do you like to have?
So great question. Good protein, good fats. Try to keep the carbs down. I'll be on a treadmill, like walking. So I'll typically have 5 miles underneath me. And so
Mhm.
I'll do a little bit more carbs if I'm getting more steps.
Yeah.
Right. And I find that if I eat and then go for a walk afterwards, even if I eat more carbs, my blood sugar comes right back down way faster.
Yeah.
And so it all is going to depend upon one, how's your weight? Are you at a good weight? And then how much movement are you going to be doing
Mhm.
after a meal? Because just gentle walking, not at a level that's going to create argita or acid reflux or indigestion, just at a Sunday stroll pace. But
Yeah.
that can lower blood sugar a lot. And so you can look at how active you are and then how do you feel afterwards? Because
Mhm.
too much carbohydrate increases lipogenesis. That means fat formation,
Mhm.
and that is very energy depleting. So if
Mhm.
you're getting tired after a meal because your blood sugar's bouncing around, going overly high and then low, then that's probably too much. So
Totally. And
what's your
like
body?
for this podcast, guys, what we're focusing on is like a normal person. We're not
Correct.
like if you're commenting below, like, hey, I'm like a D1 wrestler. It's like okay,
Totally
like
different
yeah,
animal.
like sure, let's crank up some carbs. And then same thing if you're commenting on this, like, hey, I'm 400 pounds. Like, okay, yeah, we need to like bring the calories down and really start to look at getting you in that slight deficit. Like
Yeah.
we're looking at this podcast at like a normal person, or else it would be a 7-hour podcast.
Yeah, kids at that age too, they don't have as much stress in their life. They have their school, they maybe a little job kind of thing, obviously stress of what I'm going to be doing as I get older, right? Those kind of stressors, but they have a little more time to exercise. Most kids today that I talk to, as I see a lot of kids, 16 to 18 to 20, it's a big thing to exercise. Like health culture is bigger now.
Totally.
And so kids have a little more time to focus on it. And I'm always about adjusting it to what your needs are, what your
Totally.
metabolic needs are.
Yeah, and like we like to use carbs as like a lever.
Mhm.
So it's like if you're really active, then you can crank up those carbs. And if you're moderately or not so active, or just you're just kind of taking walks after you eat, then like you could probably crank those carbs down. And you're sort of using them as ways to get good nutrition in, but you're
Yep.
not like eating tons of them if you're not that active.
Yeah, and you can do what's called a functional glucose tolerance. You can test your blood sugar before you eat,
Hmm.
and then you can run a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. We want your blood sugar ideally not to go above 120, max 140, but not above 120 in the first hour, and back below 100 within 2 to 3 hours.
Hmm.
If you're staying above that longer, it's a sign that your cells are becoming a little bit more numb to insulin, right? And that's a sign that you have to adjust those carbs down. If you're coming down really fast, then it's not a big deal. You can adjust that. The more active you are, you burn up the glycogen in your muscle. Your muscle is essentially the rag ready to wipe up the excess glucose. When your
Yeah.
rag's full because you're not moving, a full rag full of water doesn't absorb stuff. It just pushes it around, right?
Yeah.
And so the benefit of exercise is going to be getting those GLUT4 receptor sites up, pulls that glucose, pulls that glycogen back in, makes it so the liver does not have to process it. Because the liver, when the liver has like 80% less space to absorb. And so once that gets full, that's where you have systemic insulin problems.
Totally. Okay, so now they've gotten that luncheon of like, some good protein, good
Protein,
fats.
fat, it could be, you could have some veg, you could have some fruit or starch according to, and just see how you feel too. And if you want to pull out and do my functional glucose test, that's great. Yeah, that's cool. And see how you feel.
Yeah, and like, for kids out there, I know like the school lunches are just cooked in most
Yeah.
places. It's like you're probably gonna have to pack something. I've done some content on that. Meal prepping and being able to bring some stuff. As far as like fast food options out there, you try to go towards like a Chipotle or a Kava. I've done videos on that. You can get like an In-N-Out protein style.
Yep.
You should absolutely stay away from your McDonald's, your Jack in the Box, your Carl's Jr. There's just some really bad options out there.
They use meat glue in there, and a lot of that meat glue contains gluten.
Yeah,
Not so good stuff.
it's just almost impossible to order anything decent there. And we're both. I talk a lot anti about seed oils, but like we're both kind of in this camp of when you're young, it's not the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 thing to worry about with your health. I would say when you're at home, I definitely would not be using soybean oil or canola oil at home. If you're gonna go to Chipotle and they're cooking with some seed oils, I don't think it's something that you should be overly concerned about. Sure, we have the omega 3 to 6 ratio. Consuming a lot of these oxidized fats, probably not the best thing. You run thousands of heart health panels every single year, and you do recommend that your patients sort of avoid them, minimize them, but you're not in a panic about them, I'd say.
Yeah. And so in general, like having Barney's sprouted almond butter unsweetened, that's different than having some processed food cooked in a bunch of soy and canola oil, right? So there's like good, better, best, and you got to look at it. It's not all, I don't want to put them all in the same bucket.
Yeah.
And there's obviously some plant-based that are more cold pressed single source, whether it's olive and oleic acid or a monounsaturated avocado oil. That's different than the canola and the soy. And again, I'm not worried about the omega-6 too much. Just look at an 80-20, right? And try to make sure most of your fats are saturated, right? Coconut oil, ghee, butter, some kind of a tallow. Those are going to be your higher quality. They're less prone to oxidation. And if you're doing, other more liquid fats, try to keep them to the cold press single source type of, olive oil or avocado oil. Much better.
Totally. And then what would you say to someone who goes to the doctor and the doctor goes, "Hey, everything's looking good. You're looking really healthy. The person feels great. They're being able to exercise. They have a lot of energy." And they go, "But your LDL's a little high." We need to cover this topic. This happens to so many people. And they go, "Oh my God, like I should stop eating the way I eat, even though they feel great." Why is it a bit more complex than, "Oh, my LDL is just a little bit high. The doctor said I should cut out eggs, stop using coconut oil, stop using butter." What else is going on there that they're not seeing through that basic cholesterol panel?
That's a great question. So we talked about this in yesterday's podcast, right? Statins first became marketed and available due to the initial research on total cholesterol and LDL. It did not look at oxidized cholesterol, did not look at small dense cholesterol. These are the cholesterols that are more problematic. Now, first off, what is LDL? Because it's not even a cholesterol, right? It's a low density lipoprotein. It's essentially a lipoprotein, and HDL is a high density lipoprotein. In other words, HDL is the bus that goes from the body, right, back to the liver. So it recycles cholesterol. And LDL is the bus that goes from the liver to the body. So the question is, why is there an LDL bus that goes from cholesterol to the liver to the body? Why? It's because that cholesterol is vitally important for all of your steroid hormone synthesis. So almost all your hormones from the thyroid down are all made from cholesterol, right? Insulin's not, growth hormone's not, all your sex hormones are, right? And so it requires that. It's a powerful antioxidant for healing and recovery. When inflammation is over the top, then we're typically being inflamed by a lot of the processed junky fats and oils and too much insulin, which then makes those cholesterols more prone to oxidation. So better to look at small dense LDL, better to look at what particle size you have, right? A is going to be good, B is going to be more small dense, and then what's the oxidation level look like, right? And we talked about it as well, is that your number one chance of a heart issue is clotting problems, right? So why isn't your doctor running clotting factors on you? It's a no-brainer. Things that make you clot, high levels of fasting insulin, okay? Or insulin in general, but fasting insulin will tell you, above 10, you starts to be more problematic. We can look at D-dimer. We can look at other inflammatory markers, homocysteine, HSCRP, lipoprotein, PLA2, right? These are all like inflammatory markers in the blood vessel. So those are good to look at. It gives us a much better window of what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're really healthy and your other blood markers are looking good, HbA1c, CRP. So I just saw Peter Attia talking a lot lately about VO2 max. How he's like, "Hey, VO2 max is one of the best markers we have. Like, if you have a good VO2 max, your cause of all cause mortality it goes down, and it's a better reading than cholesterol. I mean, because we have these like, sure, LDL is definitely correlated with heart disease, but there's also so many cases online of people with low LDL having heart attacks. People that go their whole lives with high LDL and never have heart conditions and live into over 100 years old. So yeah, I hear that a lot where people go, "Dude, I'm feeling amazing. My doctor said my LDL is a little high," and you're talking numbers that aren't crazy high. Like, I don't think either of us would want someone to have crazy high LDL.
Correct.
We're not in that camp
A
of
lot of the things that increase LDL, we're not talking bad LDLs, oxidized small dense. They tend to be the same things that also increase HDL.
mm,
So high quality fats and proteins, right? They may increase your LDL a little bit, but they're also going to raise the HDL in proportion. And so you're going to still have that bus ratio, right? Still maybe under 4. Okay, your HDL may be at, 75, but your LDL's at your total's at like your total would be maybe 250, but you're
yeah.
still under that 4-ish ratio. So you can still increase your LDL, but increase your HDL even more, and that ratio still looks pretty solid.
Yeah, and for me personally, it's like I'm not eating like an insane amount of saturated fat. When I have some saturated fat in my diet, I just feel good. Like, you're
Yep.
talking like cooking my eggs and some butter. Like, like if I'm making a protein hot chocolate, I'm not scared of throwing a little chunk of butter in there.
No.
My skin feels good, my endocrine system feels good, and I do
Correct.
think saturated fat plays a role in that.
What they don't want to tell you is low cholesterol levels, right? Below into the lower 100s, you start to see increase in cancer risk
Mhm,
and psychogenic issues,
mhm,
more mental health problems, depression, anxiety, bipolar, right? All these type of manic issues and more cancer.
mm,
Because cholesterol is a powerful antioxidant. Your immune system needs that.
mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, so like moderation, guys. You're not trying to avoid saturated fats completely, and you're not just eating a stick of butter for breakfast. It's like you got to find some middle ground there and look at ancestral health. Like, we've coexisted with these saturated fats, craving them, consuming them forever as Homo sapiens. So, okay, so they've gotten this good lunch in.
And
Uh,
so just to highlight one thing, right?
yeah.
In the late 70s, your safe levels of total cholesterol was 300. Then
Mm,
it went to '06. Then it went to 240 in '06, and then it went, 2010 and more, went down to 200. So
mm,
it just, they keep on moving the goalposts, right?
mhm,
And how statins work is they block the enzyme HMG CoA reductase. That enzyme, the biggest thing that drives it is insulin.
mm.
And so a lot of times we can't actually decrease cholesterol via lowering insulin. And I've seen vegans with cholesterol in the 300s.
Wow.
So it's not a strict like, oh, animal protein thing, right? I've seen it with people that avoid that stuff like the plague, and I can still see it because of insulin resistant problems.
Wow, that's fascinating. So now they've gotten this lunch in.
Mhm.
Let's just say school gets out around 3 p.m. and now they're either going to the gym with their friends, hopefully if you're healthy,
Yep.
or you have some type of sports practice.
Yep.
Let's throw in like a snack here, like a pre-workout snack. What do you like?
It's a great question. So it could be a good grass fed protein smoothie. It could be a collagen smoothie. It could be hitting up some electrolytes and creatine, maybe 10 grams pre workout.
Hmm.
Those are all easy, certain things. If you want something on the go, you could easily grab some high quality cold cuts,
Hmm.
like 3 or 4 pieces of turkey or chicken or ham, just something already cut up. That's just easy.
Totally.
So those are simple things. I always say, like, you got to have like your easy go to thing that you can grab right away, or like your 5-minute meal.
Hmm.
It can be a can of tuna, some avocado oil, right? Some avocado mayo, cut
Hmm.
up an avocado, maybe get some shredded carrots or microgreens. Done. Like,
Yeah,
that's 3 minutes. Like, that's so simple. Those are
absolutely.
easy things.
Yeah, sweet. So now they've been able to hit this workout. And then again, carbs before workout are a lever. If you're maybe someone who needs to lose some weight, guys, you can work out without ingesting carbs right before, especially if you're someone who needs to lose weight. Like, you can carbohydrate backload. There was a strength coach at Texas who wrote that whole book about carbohydrate backloading where he had
Yep.
like his team eating a bunch of carbs only at night. And
That's
it's like,
better.
yeah, and it's like,
Yep.
that's like definitely a strategy. It's like, and yeah, for I like to have some carbs before a workout. I'm pretty lean, so like, some fruit, maybe some honey.
Easy to digest
Yeah,
stuff.
totally. And so like, yes, like very simple stuff. Like, you can have some honey in your backpack and an apple. Like, you could have that. That's a
Hmm.
good idea.
Correct.
Um, and so now hopefully they've hit that workout. Now they're kind of coming home. What can the routine and diet look like?
Yeah, so I get some grass-fed beef like ready to go, fire it up on my grill. I get some bunless burgers going. I get throw some microgreens, some carrots. You can, even if you need a little more carbs, you can pull out some. They have some brands out there that has some higher quality sweet potato fries or regular potato fries that have tallow on them now. Those are
Oh
great. So if
yeah.
you want a little extra carbs, that's
Mhm.
awesome. You can grab some fruit. I've been doing like my desserts typically consist of Coca yogurt,
Nice. You're
unsweetened.
on like the yogurt bowl with fruit. Yeah,
Yeah, a little some
I'm on
fruit,
that.
some
I'm doing,
cinnamon.
yeah, like my
That's my
dessert
dessert.
often
Done.
is yogurt. Well, there's two things I'm having for dessert lately. Yogurt bowl with like Greek yogurt, then I put fruit in it. And I'll sometimes stir in a scoop of our protein if I want some extra protein, and it just adds this amazing flavor. And the other thing I've been doing lately is there's this brand Real Cereal. I gotta
Mhm.
send you the bag of it. It's just organic brown rice, and they make one that's organic, non-GMO, non-glyphosate corn, and it's just corn flakes.
Yep.
And I just put some dairy, and then I'll blend in like a little bit of our protein. So like,
Yep.
and then I throw in the either the corn flakes or the rice, and I slice up a little fruit in there, a little honey, and it's just like it gives me that like classic like nostalgic cereal feeling.
Yep.
But like I'm getting 35 grams of protein, and I'm getting some carbs. I'm not getting any processed sugar in
Yep.
there. It's just like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I find some of the keto cereals make me a little bit gassy, but if I add an extra enzyme or two, gone.
Nice.
So just a little bit
Yeah.
more
Oh, yeah. We're
enzymes can
gonna
be
hit
great.
on digestive enzymes
Yep.
because I think for teenagers and young adults that are just rushing around, and we answered a question for someone yesterday. Go look at the podcast. It's already up. It's in there of like he was like at University of Arizona. He's like, hey, I'm gonna drink alcohol. What can I do? But it's
Yep.
like that type of stuff can deplete enzyme function, and so we're gonna get into some of the supplements that people can take and probably should take. So now for dinner we covered it. It's like some protein, some good carbs from like
It
potatoes,
could be
something like
steak. It could be
that.
some
Yeah.
steamed veggies. Like those are all easy, simple things. And guys, if you're gonna be busy the next day, make extra for dinner for
Yeah.
your lunch.
Oh, it's so easy to
And
do.
like the first thing I got, like my freshman year in college, I went to Walmart, invested like in $40 of Pyrex,
Hmm.
like glass
Yes. So
Tupperwares.
crucial.
Amazing. Get like some big ones, some small ones. And I was that kid, like literally I'd get my whole food. This is when they came out with like the whole food bags you could like buy. And I'd have my Pyrex. I'd have ground up all my beef for the week. I'd like steam some vegetables. I'd have a little starch in there and I'd be in the class
Yeah.
eating it. I'd pull my Tupperware out and you could just smell like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
food and everyone just like turns around. I get that look. But I'm like, hey man, you gotta,
Absolutely.
if you fail the plan, you're not gonna do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally. So
Pyrex, yep.
vegetables. So there is a large group of people that are worried about eating vegetables due to oxalates, goitrogenic compounds. They say we both are in this camp that properly cooked vegetables, especially, are not a concern. As someone who runs thousands and thousands of lab tests every single year, looking deep into gut function, what is your overall opinion on vegetables and plant defense chemicals?
So the first off, you have to look at who you're getting information from because there are people that have kind of put their stake in the ground. They're the carnivore guy. They're the plant-based guy. They're the anti-nutrient guy. And the problem is that's like what their modality is. But in the end, I'm chasing a result, not a modality.
Hmm.
So I look at the result, I look at the patient, I look at their history, what's going on, and then I adjust the modality for the result for that patient. So if I go into a home and there's like nails that need to be whacked in, I don't pull out my Phillips head trying to knock those nails and I pull out the right tool, which would be a hammer in that situation.
Hmm.
And so over the years, my mindset's always been put more tools in your tool belt, know where a carnivore diet comes in, know where these anti-nutrient diets come in because they do come in. The problem is someone's had a positive experience and therefore they see everything is a nail. So everything has to be a hammer. Everything has to be their diet. And that's a problem. So as a functional medicine doctor, you want to be able to know where those diets are recommended.
Hmm.
And so, for instance, if someone has lots of kidney stones, interstitial cystitis, they have lots of weird joint pain, we look at super high levels of oxalates and we may say, okay, maybe there's an issue there. But a lot of times oxalates can be produced more by candida and
Mm.
fungus. And so that could be a thing too. You could be making oxalates. So that matters too. And then also we can, bump up electrolytes to kind of dismiss some of that. And just cooking the foods can make a huge difference. So if you're having issues and you're having digestive problems, just going to a cooked version of that is going to lower those oxalates too.
Absolutely. That's a big thing. Like, when someone has like some crazy gut issues and you see this on actual gut tests, but for many people, maybe they can't afford a gut test, but it's like, I could totally see a strict animal based or strict carnivore short term being like a good solution. But the overall goal, especially once your gut gets healthy, changes. Like you have me eating, a good amount of fiber because
Yep.
it's like my gut is healthy. So
Yep.
what is that fiber from something like a good steamed broccoli like I ate last night or some sweet potatoes? What is that fiber going to do for a healthy gut?
So great question. It's going to support your phylobacteria. So your bacteroides and your firmicutes, you'll see them on a GI map test. They'll go very low when you go very low carb or very low carnivore.
Mhm.
You'll also see potentially these, they call them keystone bacteria, right? These are commensal bacteria, things like Faecalibacterium prausnitzkii, Akkermansia, and even things like Roseburia, they go low. And so if we see
Mhm.
those go overly low, that's where fiber can actually bump those things up. Polyphenols, avocados, they can be helpful. Now, the better question I always say is, well, when do you recommend this diet?
Mhm.
Like, why would this person do this versus this? And so my general recommendation, like carnivore, these are people that are really sensitive,
Mhm.
really have a lot of autoimmune stuff going on in their joints, in their muscles. They get a lot of pain with any anti-nutrient. So I'm always about, if I'm on the fence with someone, I will always, when they have a lot of weird systemic inflammation, I'll do a therapeutic 3 to 7 day trial on a carnivore.
For
How
sure.
much better do you feel? Because it can't hurt to test it.
Oh yeah.
Worst, someone's like, dude, I feel amazing. Great. Let's keep rolling. Or let's do a modified version. Let's just put in the carbs and all your things at night and see how
Mhm.
we feel. And so we'll
Yeah,
time it
so
up.
like you're totally willing to give someone a carnivore diet short term because the carnivore diet, you do hear these amazing stories, these life-changing stories, and I think it comes from people that are suffering from these autoimmune conditions
Like
where
Jordan Peterson. Jordan
absolutely,
Peterson,
where
same one.
food's flaring them up.
Sean
Yeah.
Baker, same thing.
Yeah, and then they get these life-changing results where, oh my gosh, I was eating certain foods and I was getting so flared up, whatever it is. But then your goal as a functional medicine practitioner is like, okay, let's do this short term and then let's figure out why certain foods are causing this reaction, what is going on in the gut that can possibly be allowing these foods to cause certain reaction, and then working back to like a relatively like normal diet that has variety.
Correct. So we'll start to lean into, okay, you want to be carnivore, you feel good, but how do we get foods back in? We're going to start with some lower FODMAP foods, right? We may even look at a low FODMAP, SCD approved type of foods. They have lower anti-nutrients and they're going to be cooked. We're
Mhm.
going to be harnessing, good fats, steaming, sauteing, or even using an Instapot, which can be wonderful. Other times I'll use carnivore are when they're just really overwhelmed about cutting out carbs and they
Mhm.
don't want to think.
Yeah.
It's easier just to be like, well, can I have this vegetable? Can I have that? Just have a ribeye steak,
Mhm.
put some
Yeah.
butter on it. Like keep it okay. Like if that's just they get overwhelmed, fine. My wife's kind of that way, and she does great on carnivore,
Mhm.
and so she'll hit that up. And I'm like, well, you could. She's like, well, you're gonna do carnivore with me? I'm like, I kind of want to have my steamed broccoli.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like my steamed broccoli,
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
I feel good when I have a good variety in my
yeah,
diet overall. So yeah, guys, if you're young watching this and you're relatively healthy and you don't experience these things, you probably do not need to worry about plant defense chemicals. A
probably
cup of
not
steamed broccoli only
most.
has a few milligrams of oxalates compared to like the animal-based people who eat fruit,
Yep.
but like a cup of raspberries has like 40 milligrams of oxalates. So some of it just doesn't make sense. And like you can always look up low oxalate vegetables and you know do those if you want. One question I was going to ask you is about gluten because gluten is just everywhere, and in a lot of young people's diets, they're eating it at every single meal. Um, I went to Italy recently. I definitely ate some gluten. Now that my gut is strong and my immune system is strong, I'm able to eat a little bit of it. I did get like a little tired, like
Yeah.
and in my day to day, I try to not eat. I pretty much avoid gluten. I will have some sourdough here and there. It's not
Hmm.
something that wrecks me. Um, what are your overall thoughts on gluten? And should people avoid it? Is it individualized? What do you think?
So first off, I always look at, is there chronic gut health issues, right? Chronic motility, bowel issues. Is there any irritable bowel diseases or any autoimmune conditions? Because there's so many autoimmune issues on the rise. And so if there's
Hmm.
anything like that, we're going to definitely pause all grains altogether because
Hmm.
there is some cross reactivity. Now, as you get healthier, right? Then you can look at like every now and then I'll plug in a little bit of high quality sourdough bread,
Hmm.
like at a steakhouse, like
And
really good
and
stuff.
why is sourdough sort of a better choice than people buying, Ezekiel bread or like a white bread even, like or a whole wheat?
Yeah, there's some fermentation that's going to make some of the anti-nutrients in it easier to process, easier to digest. Plus, when you look at sourdough breads, they tend to be more dense. They kind of feel like a hockey puck, where like a lot of the higher glutinous breads, they're just spongy and super soft.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a higher gluten content. Plus, you're not going to get like the glyphosate typically with a really good high quality organic sourdough.
Totally.
And the glyphosate is, in my opinion, it's what screws up the brush border, right? Which is the enzymatic border and the microvilli in the small intestine that absorbs nutrients, and it increases gut permeability. And so part of the reason why you're going to be more sensitive to gluten is if you add something that's already increases gut permeability, and then you add the glyphosate that increases it even more, now your chance of your immune system being pissed off goes up.
Yeah.
And but out of the gate, if you have any known autoimmune issues, any gut issues, definitely cut it out for a period of time.
Yeah,
And then we can try it back. You can try it back down the road.
Try for 30 days of your life cutting out gluten completely. It's 30 days of your life. Nobody's saying you have to never eat it again or that it's so evil, but like you should run these little experiments on yourself.
Yes.
And then you kind of find out where you are. And for me, it's like, okay, having sourdough sometimes I feel good. I can have a little bit of gluten here and there. If I up it a bit and try to have sourdough 4 days a week, I don't feel good. And so you have to, that might be different for you watching this. So you have to really start to learn how you feel with certain things. Like people will be like, should I eliminate dairy? It's like, maybe if you're having issues, try going without it for a bit and then try reintegrating it. Like you have to sort of figure out what works for you, and being able to eliminate things and reintroduce them is an amazing way to do so.
Chronic gut issues, definitely. Chronic motility, gut, digestive stuff, pull it out. Look at your family history. Is there any autoimmune stuff in your family history? Is there any chronic digestive issues? Then definitely pull it out.
Yeah.
If you're already healthy and your symptoms, but here's the issue though with gut stuff, is you're 8x more likely to have extra intestinal symptoms, meaning brain fog, anxiety, fatigue, depression. I mean, there was a study on gluten. I had Georgia Deeds on my podcast, and she's a psychiatrist, and she talked about schizophrenia. Like literally being healed by cutting gluten out. Like that's crazy. Like that's one of those things like, okay, you're going to have to be on these medications for a while, right? Forever. You can't get rid of it.
It's a gut-brain access feedback loop. And guys, why we talk so much about gut health in this, and like when I was just talking about how fiber can, like you were saying, can feed these like beneficial bacteria. A lot of young people are worried about their skin health. That's a major factor right there. There's the gut-skin axis. And when you have a healthy gut microbiome, you're most likely going to have good skin. They directly sort of feed back into each other. So what I want to get into now is...
I have that one thing.
Yeah.
So inflammation in the gut and the brain, it's bidirectional. That means inflammation in the gut can open the gut barrier, right? Which allows things to go into the bloodstream, right? Because in your gut's actually still outside of your body. It has to go absorbed in. Now it's in your bloodstream, right? And that can make its way to your brain, right? Which you have a blood-brain barrier known as your astrocytes. Once it goes into past the astrocytes, now it can activate your microglial cells, which are the immune cells in the brain. And that can create cognitive, mood issues, energy issues, focus problems. And inflammation in the brain can actually cause gut permeability. There's all kinds of studies on people that get in car accidents or have head trauma, and it screws up their gut.
Yeah.
So people, if you're like doing MMA stuff and you're getting concussed or you're doing things, that could negatively impact your gut too.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. So the next thing I want to cover are enzymes and other supplements that people can take to benefit their health. Enzymes have been life-changing for me. Doing some HCl, then we make our pre-feast enzyme, which is just, some digestive enzymes in there. Oh my gosh, on my Italy trip, like enzymes saved me. I was able to, experiment around with some foods that I don't normally eat, and they're just amazing. So what are digestive enzymes, and how does a HCl sort of work in the body, and why might people start to sort of get this like low enzyme activity, and how would that affect them?
So if I could only recommend one product to anyone, it's going to be HCl and enzymes. Because if someone's starting on this health journey, a lot of times they're stressed, they have issues. The first things that goes when you start to get stressed is your ability to break down food optimally, right? So look at your stool. How does it look? Is there chunks of food? Are you going every day, right? Because you got to be able to take that food, absorb, assimilate, and utilize it. That's number one. And if you're making all these good, you're eating more protein and fat, and you're stressed, a lot of times you may have a hard time processing that. That's why most, outside of like, religious or like just like wanting to be kind to animals, most vegetarians tend to have a negative experience with meat, and they go that way.
Yeah,
and a lot of times
they weren't digesting.
They weren't digesting it well, right?
Especially if you experiment around with a vegetarian or vegan diet, like your stomach changes basically, and it's like your body stops producing these enzymes that help you digest fat and digest protein. And so you think, oh, I just can't digest red meat, but really it's like you just have low enzyme function. So can you explain sort of the differences between something like a betaine HCl and like, I guess, more normal enzymes like your phytase, lipase, lactase, stuff like that?
So the first thing that's most important in digestion is pH, right? Because most enzymes are pH driven. So your typical stomach pH is going to be around 2 to 2.5, right? And that is so important for one, it makes it harder for microbes to grow.
Mm.
So part of when you get stressed, you make less acid. And then when you make less acid, that's where it's easier for microbes to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And so having enough acid brings that pH nice and low, makes it the microbes harder to grow. It also closes the esophageal sphincter.
Mm.
So it prevents the rotting and fermentation and putrefaction of that food from going up. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times more acid can actually help with the acid reflux
Mm-hmm.
because it produces gastrin and secretin, which then helps that esophageal sphincter close. So HCl is very important. Then we have things like pepsinogen, which gets activated by acid. So pepsinogen goes to pepsin. So that's the major proteolytic enzyme in the stomach. And that nice low pH, this is all called chyme now, right? It's all mixed up kind of goo from your stomach that goes from your stomach into your small intestine. And that nice acidity does two things. It's going to trigger the pancreas to make a bunch of bicarbonate, which is like baking soda, which brings the pH back up. And it's also going to trigger cholecystokinin release, which is going to cause your gallbladder to contract, release a bunch of bile. And so that acid then stimulates the bile to also help too. And then you get your bunch more enzymes by the pancreas being produced, whether it's trypsin, chymotrypsin, lipase. These enzymes you kind of put into two families here: proteolytic, right? Protein digestion, and then lipolytic, fat digestion. And then you have some protein digestion in your stomach as well. And then you have some carbohydrate via the amylase in your saliva. And so you have amylase in the mouth, you have pepsin in the stomach, and then you have more protease and more lipase, and then you have the bile as well. So all that kind of helps.
So how can someone start using betaine HCl and other digestive enzymes? I'll just walk people through how I started using them, and then you can sort of get into like what you recommend for people. Like I bought betaine HCl. You can get it. I mean, it's widely available. Betaine HCl with pepsin, I believe, is the product that I have. And then I started taking like a broad spectrum digestive enzyme or pre-feast enzymes, which have, lipase in there, lactase, phytase, amylase. So what I would start to do basically is take some of this, like right when I would have like my first bite of food, basically, and sometimes like another one, like midway through the meal, if I'm really dialed in with the timing. I wouldn't overly worry about this. Like I would just throw them in my pocket, like one or two of the pre-feast enzymes, which have some ginger root in there as well, and then like 2 betaine HCl with pepsin, and then like last night when we were at the steakhouse, we all like pulled out like our enzymes because we're having like a big meal. We're gonna like go in, and that's sort of more how I use them now that my like gut is working well, or if I'm traveling and stuff like that. So it's not something that you need to be on for the rest of your life. Like people are like, hey, I feel fine digestive wise. How do I use your pre-feast enzymes? I'm like, dude, if you're gonna have a big meal or something that you don't normally eat, maybe you're going out to a restaurant, pop 2 of them. Like stuff in there is going to help. But for teens, especially in young adults, it's like I really feel like with that stress and that rushed eating, like, oh, it's lunchtime. You have 45 minutes to eat. I remember at high school, we'd walk across the street to this place, Town and Country, and it's like, okay, we have like 45 minutes for lunch. You meet with your friends, you walk across there. Like now you're down to 30 minutes and you have a 10-minute haul back. Like it is rushed and there's a huge line because they're just sending all the high schoolers out into and it's like, when you are eating in a rushed state, taking that betaine HCl with some enzymes can be life-saving because stress kind of can inhibit this like normal digestive juice secretion to simplify it. When you're calm and relaxed and you're cooking food in your kitchen, even starting to smell that food being cooked signals to your brain to start releasing some of these enzymes. And then you sort of take that first bite, you're able to chew and relax. Your mouth starts to basically secrete these enzymes. But when you're like, holy shit, I have like 10 minutes to eat, like it's just not the same process. So how do you like to tell people, I know it's individualized, but if you were to give like a broad recommendation for somebody to start using betaine HCl with pepsin and some enzymes, what would you say?
Yeah, anywhere between 500 milligrams to 2 grams is a pretty reasonable starting dose. I always tell patients, make sure there's some food in your tummy first, just a little bit, because if someone has a low grade gastritis or they have impaired gut function at some level, that acid sitting up against that raw stomach could potentially create a little irritation.
Dude, one time at Thanksgiving, like last year, I was at my wife's family's house, and I'm like, hey, when are we gonna eat? She's like, we're about to eat like right now, and I'm like, okay, big Thanksgiving meal. I'm like, betaine HCl, and then 5 minutes go by, no food, they're yapping. 10 minutes go by, and then I started to feel that
But you
like
feel
acid
it.
feeling. I'm like, I gotta eat something.
Something. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, good thing to do is take a few bites, then
Yes.
pop it.
And
Yeah.
then pop it. And also the same issue is if you do it at the end of a big meal, now it's really puffed up high. It can start to hit the antrum of your stomach, the very top part, and that can
True.
create some
If I
problems.
forget to take it, I forget to take it. Like I'm not gonna take it right after a meal.
Or if you did like, you could do like a scoop of almond butter or coconut oil, like a handful of blueberry, just something to kind of push it down so
Yeah.
it's not right up against that mucosa. So that's a pretty good starting dose. And again, if someone has a lot of gut issues, I may push it a little higher. I may go up to 2 or 3 or even 4 grams.
And this
Again,
is at each meal.
yeah, and and I'll increase it daily. So I won't even do it per meal. They'll do it at each meal, but then we'll increase the dose daily, not every meal.
And
so
someone knows if they're taking too much, right? They do get that sort of acid feeling.
get a little bit of warmness.
A little bit of warmness in there.
Yep. And then there's also another one that you can do. I don't do it as much, where you do a little bit of baking soda, and if you're burping, that's usually a sign that you have enough. Or if you don't, right, the sign that you may be low. I don't use that as much. I'll just do the calibration and see how you feel. And also, do you feel lighter after a meal? How does your motility feel, right? Are you more regular? Sometimes I have chronic constipation cases come in, and then we just get the acid and enzymes up, and it's like, whoa. And so I always do acid first, and then we'll do enzymes second, usually between 1 to 3 enzymes. And I tell patients, like a light white fish, that's different than like a ribeye. So
Totally.
like kind of use common sense based on the richness of the meal.
Yeah. Yeah. Like now in my life, like some meals, like I'm not worried about taking an enzyme, like a light protein shake for me with some like blended berries in there. Like I'm like, oh, like whatever. But then yeah, like if I'm gonna sit down, it's like it's feast time. Like I'm totally happy to take some enzymes and some HCl. And it just helps me break this down because like we've talked about a lot, like 2 people can eat the same meal and the amount of vitamins and minerals that those people actually absorb can be different. And a lot of it's based on actually breaking down the food.
100%. 100%. And then, so once we have the acid dialed in, then we can work on more enzymes too. You're going to get usually some pepsin with most good HCl products. So you're getting some enzymes with that alone. HCl is the first most important product, and then enzymes are going to be good there. And again, if we're maybe having a little bit of a gluten or a little bit of a cheat, it's not a license for it, but get something that has some DPP4 in there, dipeptidylpeptidase 4, just something that's going to have more enzymatic action for that. Not a license to do it, but it's good to have things like that. And anytime I'm eating on the go, I had a bigger breakfast today, right? I ate a big solid like steak and eggs kind of thing. And so I did more enzymes, more HCl, but normally I'm not going to do that. If I'm eating where I just feel a little bit like I ate a little bit too much, then I'll do a little more HCl or enzymes. But eat a meal where I'm feeling good and light, nothing.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of people worry, like people are worried about phytic acid, right? And it's like phytase helps break down phytic acid. And it's like, a lot of people that are overly concerned about these things, like, okay, like you could pop an enzyme with some phytase in there. I did a video and it's a total one-of-one anecdote, but a lot of people have tried it where I feel like I completely fixed my dairy intolerance. I didn't have a crazy dairy intolerance, guys. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like when I drink it, I'm getting wrecked. But what I did is I took that Digest Gold lactase enzyme while doing very low lactose dairy. So just some cheese, just some kefir, stuff like that. And I sort of integrated that. And then I would do like small amounts of a high quality dairy. And I'm still taking this enzyme. And I did this for like weeks. And then I just sort of weaned off that like higher dose lactase enzyme. And like, I feel like that sort of trained my body to be like, hey, this is safe. This is fine. We don't need to have these little reactions with dairy. And that was amazing. And I feel like the lactase enzyme in there was just crucial for me for that.
100%. Plus certain fats like certain dairy compounds like ghee and butter, you're going to have very, very low lactose in there anyway, which is the sugar part. And then you're going to have lower casein, which is the protein part. So sometimes people have lactose intolerant. That's more of a sugar issue. Casein is more of the protein problem. But if you do ghee, you're going to have the least of everything. And so when we add in dairy, it's always ghee first. Then it's going to be a grass-fed butter second. And then it'd be some kind of like a hard cheese or a good quality yogurt.
Yeah, like a Greek yogurt has very, like a lot of people who think they're dairy intolerant, they could do like a really high quality Greek yogurt.
A lot of times they can. And if you can make it A2, that's great. It's like good, better, best. Don't look for an excuse to not try it. You just do it in the best way for success. That's all.
Totally. Okay, so we covered some of the enzymes. What are some other foundational supplements that you feel like young people should be taking? And obviously, guys, food first for sure. But like a lot of people watching this, like they've dialed in their food, they're listening to what we're saying, they're dialed in their sleep, their exercise. So now they want to look towards some supplements. What do you give a lot to young adults?
Well, just one more thing on the digestion, because I always want to hit that fully.
Yeah.
Look at your stools. Make sure they're not floating. Make sure they're not blonde or clay color, right? We may want to add a little more bile in with that if they're floating. Are you leaving a lot of like streaks in the toilet seat? Is there a lot of excessive wiping? Like those things matter. So make sure
Oh,
that's
dude,
checked off your list.
some of these, people I talk to, it's like they have just the crazy stuff. Like they're like, oh yeah, no, I poop like once every 4 days. It's like that's like like considered normal for a lot of people. I'm like, you are not detoxifying your body properly. You are going to get colon cancer, bro. There's a massive rise in colon cancer in young people, and I think people should be extremely skeptical about a lot of these sort of new things that people are doing, whether it be drinking 9 cans of a sucralose sweetened beverage every single
Correct.
day, whether it be doing 10 nicotine pouches or a combination of those, and eating a bunch of red 40 and not consuming enough healthy fiber. Guys, you think this shit's funny until you go to the doctor and they go, you have colon cancer.
Correct.
Do some basic research on what happens when you have colon cancer. Not fun. Gotta lock in on some of this stuff now.
And,
Yeah.
and a GI map can early screen for a lot of these things. It's usually with like colon cancer or like precancerous polyps. Usually you're seeing some kind of blood in the stool.
Hmm.
Usually you're seeing some increase in inflammation, whether it's calprotectin or eosinophilics or lactoferrin. You're seeing something going on there. And so if those things look pretty good, then that's a really good sign. You can always get a Cologuard, which kind of looks at blood and DNA, but that at least gives you a really good sign you're on the right track.
For sure. Hopefully, I mean, if you're in high school, save up like 20, $30 a month and get a GI map at some point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Inflammation drives polyp growth, and so does high insulin,
Mhm.
right? So high insulin and polyps is a strong correlation there. So
Totally.
keep your carbs and insulin in check. Do that functional glucose test, and then you can always run a GI map every now and then and just make sure things look good.
Mhm.
But if you feel good, if you're regular with your bowels, you're doing the right thing with your foods 80 to 90% of the time, that's a good start right there.
What's an ideal pooping schedule for you? What's like, I know it's going to vary, but for a healthy person.
So first thing out of the gate, try to shoot for at least 12 inches a day total. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. And it could be 2 6s.
You
It
bringing
could
in a
be
measuring tape into the bathroom,
you
right?
just gotta eye it, right? But you want like your like general sausage kind of shape, right?
Mhm.
You don't want it to be on the Bristol stool chart 1 where it's like pellets, right? Like kind of pellety, like rabbit pellets. And you don't want it
So
to
anybody
be
can Google Bristol stool
Bristol
chart.
stool chart, right? 1's like pellets, 7's like pure liquid, 4's kind of right in the middle. So somewhere between 3 and 5 on average is going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Mhm.
And if it's on the lower side, usually hydration and fiber can be helped. If it's on the higher side and it's getting looser, what happens there? Your body's flooding the colon with water because something is inflammatory in there.
Mm.
And so then you got to make sure you get to the root cause of why that's there,
Mhm.
right? And so 12 inches ish is pretty good rule of
Mhm.
thumb. Yeah.
And how many times per day?
I would say as long as you do that daily, that's pretty good. It's a
Mhm.
pretty good rule of thumb. Obviously, bigger people, you eat more food, you may have, 16 inches of stool. So play around with that. And then look at your stool. Is it floating? Is it sinking? Right? Just keep an eye on the wipes. That's a big thing. Because
If it's floating, like what does that maybe mean in the gut?
so it could be fat malabsorption. It's not always though. So we'll run a GI map and look at steatocrit, but also look at blonde. Is it blonde? Is it clay colored? Is it streaky on the toilet seat? Is there a lot of wiping? Because the floating sometimes can be you could be doing a lot of fiber that's making it more float.
Mhm.
And so you got to look at the other checks, right? The clay color, the blonde, the streaks, the wiping, all those kind of should be looked at. And then if we're in doubt, we just look at steatocrit on the stool test.
Gotcha. Okay, so we covered a lot with digestion there for you guys. We got into the nitty gritty right there. And now, yeah, like some supplements young people can look into to start to sort of optimize their health.
Yeah, so easy thing out of the gate is going to be electrolytes, especially potassium, magnesium.
Mhm.
Most people do not get enough magnesium. Lots of studies on 50% of the population is deficient.
Mhm.
Okay, so a good either a malate or a glycinate, or if you're on a budget, you could even do a citrate. Stay away from oxide for actual magnesium support. It's more from motility. So we want good magnesium. And also potassium, just from an electrolyte standpoint, the DRI, the daily recommended intake for potassium is 4,700
Oh,
milligrams.
dude,
a day.
most people are just falling short, and
Most
it's like,
don't.
yeah. Luckily, like I work out a lot, and if you're watching this and you work out a lot, it's sort of easier to get these potassium sources in because you can up like, your fruit. Like it's like I can hit some bananas, some kiwis, like even some like juices sometimes, like right before like jujitsu and stuff. But like if you're not working out a lot, like you might want to limit that. Sweet potatoes are an excellent source of
Yep.
potassium.
Yep, they are.
Real good like quality sources of dairy. Like we were saying, like the dessert with like a Greek yogurt bowl with maybe some like banana in there, like that can up your dietary potassium. But yeah, like supplementing with some electrolytes. Like we
Most
recently
people-
upped the potassium in ours because we're like seeing
Yeah.
this, like people are just sort of deficient in it.
They're low. And I tell patients out of the gate, go on Chronometer. Chronometer is like a MyFitnessPal, but it'll look at micronutrients.
Yeah.
And most people don't get even half. And most people are brainwashed into where to even get potassium. If I say think of potassium-rich foods, people are going to think of a banana.
Yeah.
Right. But
Avocados
are 2x a banana. It's like, right. So you can get it. So yeah, like smoothie wise, you could do avocado, a little bit of banana, some coconut water, right? It's like, dude, you just got like half your potassium right there for a great smoothie.
I love coconut water. I was thinking of starting a coconut water brand at some point, or like, like, because I love coconut water. Now
it's nature's
sweeter.
Gatorade.
Yeah, it's nature's Gatorade, and like, it's sweeter. So again, be active if you're drinking coconut water. But yeah, so much potassium in there. It's
like a post-workout thing, right? You shouldn't be just drinking it if you're not active, but if you're like working out hard and you just did some interval stuff or some, cardio lifting, great. That's
totally
fine. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so upping the magnesium, potassium. Magnesium, personally, I take a few hundred milligrams of magnesium glycinate every night. You talked about chronometer. I'll even enter my healthy days of eating in, and sometimes I'm falling 200, 300 milligrams short of magnesium. So I like to supplement that.
And don't get too like inundated by it. Just run a typical average day.
Yeah.
Run a typical like bad day and just kind of compare, see what you're at. And then you kind of know, okay, this meal looks like this meal looks like that. Because you get like how many meals? You maybe have 5 or 10 meals that you're typically repeating.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have an idea where you're sitting on average.
For sure. So we got some of the electrolytes, magnesium, potassium. What else?
Okay, so we have our electrolytes, magnesium, potassium. Okay, so next thing is going to be, I would say, just a really good multi. Like if we're trying to be like get the most done with the least, a good multi that's going to have 15 to 20 milligrams of zinc. Maybe up to half a milligram to a milligram of copper. Maybe we're getting a good broad spectrum vitamin E. Maybe we're getting a little bit of vitamin A in there. Maybe we're getting some methylated B vitamins.
What are some brands of multis that you like? Because you look at some of these multivitamins and they're like cyanocobalamin, like sodium selenite, and you're like, dude, like this is like the most low quality.
Oh, dude.
And a lot of them, the good multivitamins, you have to take a few pills, and people are like, I just want one. It's like with so many of the supplements we make, like the food of the gods and stuff, people are like 5 pills. It's like, brother, to fit the actual compounds into the pill to get an effective dose, you have to take multiple pills. That's just how it works. Like, and I have looked at a lot of other supplement companies, and some of them I'm like, you're lying.
It's
like there's no way. Like there's just no way you're fitting the effective dose in this capsule. And how do I know that? We look at this stuff all the time. Okay.
Yep.
Like we're looking at doing like a combination of some good like reishi mushroom, turkey tail, like we were talking about, with some organs. And it's going to be one of those supplements where you got to take 5 pills. Like that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, multivitamin brands. What do you like?
Well, I mean, first off, don't pixie dust. That's a big one. And we talked about like the raw material. You can go into like Walgreens and CVS. Think of the brands that you see there. I won't say any brands, but I'll see like a CoQ10 like on the shelf, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, crap, I can buy like 10 kilograms of CoQ10 and I cannot get my price under what they are at just for raw material.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Like, so we know like when you go get like beef, you can get like the high quality steakhouse that's grass-fed organic, or you can get McDonald's, right? That's the same quality in the supplement world. For sure. It's that kind of differential. Yeah. And so when whatever you pay for, you're typically getting, what you're getting. So there's going to be like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 brands. So your tier 3 are going to be anything that's going to be that you see in like a CVS or Walgreens on average, right? They may have some good exceptions on that. But your tier 1s, you're going to see things like orthomolecular, pure encapsulations, Thorne.
Yeah, big fan of. I have a lot of pure encapsulations in my supplement cabinet. I got a good amount of Haro and Thorne.
You're gonna have your brands. I'm gonna have my brands. Like I'm gonna source it from tier 1 raw material suppliers, right? That's key. You're going to see, what are you going to see? You're going to see methylated B12. Yes. You're going to see an LMTHF folate. You're not, or at least a calcium folate. You're not going to see folic acid. You're going to see a P5P, a pyridoxal 5-phosphate, and activated B6. Mm-hmm. You're going to see B1, B2 that are going to be all methylated and activated. You're going to see vitamin A not as a beta carotene. You're going to see it more as a retinol palmitate, or at least a combination of that. Same with your tocopherols, right? And so then your chelates, you're typically going to see more like a glycinate or a selenomethionine or some kind of a good chelate attached to the mineral for better absorption.
Yeah, there's just better forms of stuff. And like the companies that care, they use the better forms. And there's like easy ways to look at this, guys. Like look at the B12 and some vitamins. If they use cyanocobalamin versus methocobalamin, like the companies using cyanocobalamin, in my opinion, they just kind of don't care. It's like,
people know now that they should have a better song.
Yeah. And so so you can get a good multivitamin. I know there's like Pure Encapsulations 1. Was one out there that
But even that one, you still should use it 2-3 times a day. I would never just do that once a day.
Yeah, it's like not
I still wouldn't.
Enough. Yeah.
No.
And then like also another way you can go about this is sort of individualizing some of the compounds and taking them. So like you can get like a like I take the mitosynergy from
Yep.
you, which is
Yep.
that. So I'm like, that's like my
Yep.
methylated B vitamins and
Yep.
some mitochondrial support in
Yep.
there, right? Some CoQ10, um, and some PQQ in there, I believe, and
Yep.
some compounds like that. And then like I take our zinc copper capsules to get some of
Yep.
those minerals. That's a 15-to-1 ratio.
People that have
Uh,
thyroid issues or antibodies, maybe an extra selenium by itself, an extra
extra
200
selenium,
micrograms
yeah.
could be helpful.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this whole trend went
Creatine,
viral of like creatine, absolutely amazing.
need a lot
This
of
whole
that.
trend went viral. People like, I eat 2 Brazil nuts to get my selenium, which is cool. I thought it was a cool trend, but it's like you can also just like take a selenium supplement, which will help with skin health, brain health.
And the problem with that Brazil nut thing is the Brazil nuts, the amount of selenium can be off by a factor of 10.
Yeah, yeah.
And so are
yeah,
you
you're not-
getting like a low amount or are you getting the just right amount? That's
Yeah.
the problem with that.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
harder to overdose with a selenomethionine chelate. You can potentially overdose with a Brazil nut if you do too many.
So we got some good multi in there. We touched on creatine. Creatine, probably one of the most studied supplements out there,
Yeah.
probably one of the most affordable supplements out there. And the myths around it, guys, are myths for the most part. People are like, it's just going to put water in your muscles. That's what's happening. If you take creatine or not, when you work out, your body is driving water
Yeah.
there and nutrients. And it's like, that's going to happen anyway. So supporting that process is a good thing.
That's why bodybuilders inject insulin a lot of times. They'll go to insulin at the extreme because it's driving stuff into the muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
not good because you can go hypoglycemic and go into a coma pretty fast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
don't do that at
Oh,
home.
I think we should touch on some of that stuff. Some of you teenagers that want to do gear and want to do peptides, I think we should touch on that at
Oh
the
my
end.
gosh.
So some creatine. What other stuff? Maybe some
So
relaxing
fish oil,
things.
fish oil can be excellent, especially
good
from an
omega-3 for
inflammation.
sure.
Good omega-3.
How do you find a good fish oil? Because this has been something I actually get asked a lot, and like we've looked into. So like we've looked into like doing an omega-3 before, but I'm like, I have to go to the fishery. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like it would be a huge project for us. I've been using some of the brand Rosita. I
Rosita's
think
great for
Nordic
cod liver.
One of the reasons I think Nordic Naturals is pretty good is because they sell a lot of stuff. So it's relatively fresh because you have this problem with fish oils that sit on the shelf for a long time with oxidation.
Correct.
What do you look for in a good fish oil?
So first off, like Carlson's, Nordic Naturals, I think it's Carlson's, but
Yeah, Carlson's good.
in there, I like the caps, right? Because I give my kids the caps in the morning. They don't like the cod liver oil like straight. Like
Yeah.
Carlson's
Oh,
has a
that
lemon
stuff's
one that's good.
Yeah.
Like from a quality standpoint, but the taste is not the best. I'll give it to my dog. But the Rosita is good. But Carlson's and Nordic Naturals, they have a little bit of soybean oil as their carrier, where Rosita has like a clean olive oil. So I
Yeah.
like that as a better carrier.
Mhm.
And it's just a great way to get vitamin A.
Mhm.
And again, like a good preventative, like natural version of Accutane is just get some cod liver oil.
For sure.
Maybe
You're
some
gonna get
grass-fed
some
beef
vitamin
organs.
A, yeah.
Those are so vitamin A rich. Just start there before you do any of these medications.
Yeah, there's been a few
Start there.
videos I've seen on TikTok of people eating raw beef liver and cod liver oil spoonfuls, and they'll write like natural Accutane, and it's like it's not that simple, but it is a great source of vitamin A, and Accutane is like this tremendously high dose of vitamin A, but you get some of these. I saw a study potentially linking like injuries, because like you're drying out the sebum in the body so intensely with Accutane
Yes.
that like it doesn't just dry it out, and like the skin sebum has other functions in your joints and stuff like that. So that was like, whoa, that was interesting.
Exactly. And also, you can get like almost, I think it's like with a Rosita or a good quality cod liver oil, you can get almost 100% of your RDA of
Mhm.
vitamin A for the day with just 1 tablespoon.
For sure.
Like that's amazing. And so you may want to go therapeutically higher if you are trying to work on acne. Now we may even do a higher dose retinol, like liquid. But again, once we go really higher dose, one, if you're a female, it's vitamin A is teratogenic. If you're trying to get pregnant, like don't put your wife or girlfriend on that because that can potentially create birth defects. So number one. And if you've been on it for a high dose, it takes a month or two to kind of slowly come out. So don't be like, hey, I stopped and think about getting pregnant that month, right?
Yeah.
And if you're on the fence, just get your retinol tested. So we'll look at retinol, we'll look at liver enzymes too, and be aware of like dry eyes, dry lips, those kind of things.
For sure. So why are chia seeds and even like stuff like canola oil, people say, oh, like on the label, it'd be like omega-3s, huge dose of omega-3s in chia seeds. Why is this not an actual good source of omega-3?
So when you look at the chemical structures of these fatty acids, we want long chain fatty acids. So for instance, you look at the chemistry of like a plant-based omega-3, that's going to be alpha linolenic acid. That's an 18 carbon fatty acid that has to go through these different like delta desaturase enzymes. I think it's delta 4 or 5 converts it from an 18 alpha linolenic to a eicosapentaenoic. So that's now a 20 carbon. So we went
To
from 18
EPA.
carbons
Yeah.
to a 20 carbon, right? Now this fat helps with inflammation more, right? And then that 20 carbon goes to hexanoic acid. That's DHA.
Mhm.
That's going to help with more neurological tissue and brain. And the enzymes to convert that go down when you have insulin resistance. And if you're just getting it from plants, it's like 5 or 10% convert. So you're
That's
not
what I
getting a
was looking
bunch.
at. So
It's
it's
very
like
low conversion.
it's kind of this marketing ploy of chia seeds have a lot of omega-3. Well, like technically on the surface, but then your body can only use 5% of that. It's
18 carbon alpha linolenic omega-3s, not the 20 and 22.
Mhm.
And it's just the conversion that has to happen.
Yeah, so a lot of these it's a problem, guys. Like Western medicine will say you want to get a good amount of omega-3s in, but then they will also, with their other hand, go, yeah, plant-based is a really good option. And it's just dumb because it's like, what are the actual usable omega-3s in your body? Like you can get these through eggs, you can get these through high-quality sources of seafood,
Yep.
obviously. Even like grass-fed beef is going to have some omega-3s in there. And then supplementing with something like a good high-quality cod liver oil, as we discussed.
Yes, good
Good
omega
option.
3. Like when I go to look at and manufacture products, we're always looking at top raw material. But the question is like, how do plants have this in animal? How do animals have this and plants don't? Right? That's the ultimate question. It's because animals are really good at bioaccumulating and concentrating nutrients. Right? Like grass-fed meat, it's like 1 pound of meat. That's comes from essentially 8 pounds of grass to support that 1 pound of meat.
Mm,
Or you have fish bioaccumulate the algae that has the omega-3s to make the EPA and the DHA, right?
yeah,
And so it's a bioaccumulation. Now, it can also go the other way and you can bioaccumulate toxins.
for sure.
So that's why you also want to do healthy
Yeah, a
stuff
lot of
there. Yeah.
seafood out there. Like I'm not eating tons of seafood. I don't completely stray away from it. But you know, I try to have like some sardines sometimes. I know
Yeah,
are like better sources. I'll eat some wild salmon. And if I go out to a nice restaurant, like I'm totally down to eat some seafood. But
correct.
there are issues with our ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like the mercury thing, you always want to look at the better thing is the selenium to mercury ratio. Selenium is an important cofactor for recycling glutathione, and so you want to look at selenium to mercury ratio. And so things like skipjack tuna and like cod and salmon, Alaskan sockeye, those are going to have a higher selenium to mercury ratio,
Mhm.
and so it'll help chelate. And if
Yeah,
you're
and
worried, take
that's
some NAC with it too, which
totally.
you should be doing anyway.
Yeah, that's probably why there's like some of these studies where people eat a very good amount of these tuna cans and they don't get mercury
And
issues.
skipjack's one of the best you can do because it's like a darker meat tuna and there's selenium and mercury's off the charts. And they've seen studies at women who are pregnant that followed the hey, avoid fish because of the mercury during pregnancy, and their kids lost IQ points
Yeah.
because of the DHA EPA for brain health.
Yeah, it's so crucial. So, what are some other supplements?
All right, so we got EPA, we got cod liver oil. I mean, I think you cannot go wrong with a good beef organ,
Hmm.
multi-organ glandular, just because there's so many super nutrients in those
For
things.
sure.
You just can't go wrong with that.
Just finding a good beef liver. I
Yeah.
like a good beef heart, beef liver blend.
Yeah, and I don't even consider it a supplement. I just consider it like food in a capsule
Totally.
form.
Yeah, like
It's
you
not
don't
even a
need to
supplement for me.
guys like our food of the god supplement or any
Yeah.
like beef heart, beef liver blend. Liver King sent us a bunch of stuff. Like I walk by these things during the day and I'll like pop a few. You're most unless you're mega dosing maybe liver capsules like in an insane amount. Like if you're getting like a good variety, like kidney, I take some of the kidney one. Like you can just kind of pop these throughout the day. It's just minerals, some nutrients in there. You know, like it's pretty easy to take.
Yeah, I mean, when you study like Weston A. Price's book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, you look at the societies that always worked on fertility. They always preserved the organ meats and they gave it to their women.
Yeah.
And also too, like my cat, like will go outside, kill a bird, kill a squirrel, kill whatever, a rabbit. The first thing she goes for is the organs.
Yeah.
It's like right for the organs.
Yep.
And the only thing she won't have is like a piece of the stomach where a lot of the acid is. Like,
Mm.
she knows that's where all the bitterness
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
So she'll leave that, but she'll eat everything.
Yeah.
It's
Animals
crazy.
know.
The animals know.
And Weston A. Price, we actually just did a piece about sort of the vitamin K2 and that helping with teeth and jaw development. And vitamin D is essential in there. So
Yes.
if somebody cannot get total body sun exposure, a good vitamin D, maybe with some K1 and K2 in there, very affordable supplement.
Yeah, or if you're taking vitamin D and you just want to take a scoop of either cod liver oil because you're gonna have K2 in that,
Totally,
or,
yeah,
or
people-
ghee, grass
yeah,
fed butter. You want to
yeah.
get K2 in that.
Some
So
egg yolks, like people were like, yeah, we have a vitamin D with extra virgin olive oil, and then we have a vitamin D with K2 now. And when we just said the vitamin D, people were like, but I just saw, a post that went viral that said like vitamin D is useless without K2
yeah,
or magnesium. And you're like, yeah, like you're right in a way, but it's not like they have to be ingested at the exact same time or else the
Correct.
vitamin D is useless. It's like get your vitamin K2 in and get your magnesium in. and the body will function properly.
It's not a
Yeah.
water soluble vitamin where you just pee it out. Your body will store fats. So
Mhm.
your fat soluble vitamins are ADEK, ADEK. And so it'll accumulate over time in your system. So it's
Yeah.
okay. It doesn't have to be perfectly paired together. And if someone's really good, I know they're having some egg yolks, they're having some ghee, some cod liver oil. I don't even worry about the K2 at that point if I know they're consuming those things.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Let's get into potentially some of the stress mitigating and sleep activating herbs for young adults and people. I feel like a lot of people are stressed, you know. And hey, I get it. You know, younger people, like, you want to watch some TV, play some video games with your friends at night. How can they sort of start that unwinding process?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing is light. Get the light lower. That's great. You can invest in some blue blocking glasses. If you're on a budget, get like 25 pounds of Epsom salts from Amazon. Just put a cup or two.
Yeah, a
and
good
put your
warm bath
feet-
with some
yeah.
Epsom salt or a
And
foot
even
soak.
that, like if you can't jump in the bath, just get a foot basin. Put your
Yeah.
feet in there. Cover your whole foot. Let it soak till it starts to get cold. Step out. No big deal. Dump it. That's excellent. Great way to get magnesium. And especially if someone's like gut sensitive,
Mhm.
we can bypass the gut because sometimes people get sensitive to magnesium and they get loose stools. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, let's do it for your skin.
Yeah.
That's a great way to do it. And then also on the sleep side, we may do some things like theanine.
Yeah.
Theanine's a great amino acid. It's going to calm down. It's going to take the glutamate in the brain. It's going to convert it, which is like, that's what creates like the over rumination.
Mhm.
And it converts glutamate to GABA.
Yeah, I'm like a go type person,
Yeah.
and stuff like L-theanine, lemon balm,
Very good.
ashwagandha has been
Yep.
like,
lemon
dude,
balm,
like
ashwagandha,
life
yep.
saving for me in the evening because it's like I need to unwind, hang out with my
Correct.
wife, put my phone away, and those substances help me do that. And it's like, for sure I could do it without it, you know. It's like, and there's other things, guys, that like, okay, I did a post saying like a 10-minute meditation is going to get you more than ashwagandha.
Correct.
But it's like you could also do both, you know, like
Yeah.
so yeah, like doing some basic stuff like that and just sort of unwinding is so crucial.
Yeah, I mean, try to get, that red light either at sunset or sunrise. That's going to be excellent. Try to look at things far away. We just get so stuck in our little cubes, even our office here, and it's like you want to look far away. Really
Yeah.
look far away, look close, look far away. Really good for your eyes too. So good for your eyes.
Sweet. And I know you have a flight to catch. We're going to touch on one more thing to wrap
Yeah.
up this episode. A lot of young people are going towards testosterone
Yeah.
or human growth hormone or various peptides. And while the peptide conversation is very nuanced because there's so many
Oh
different
my gosh, there's
types,
so many.
like, are you a 21-year-old athlete who's using it for a BPC for a shoulder recovery? Or are we talking
Totally different.
you're using like, a growth hormone stimulating peptide at 14 years old? So overall, as a functional medicine doctor, what do you think about this?
So first thing is, if you're younger, more than likely, you do not need to be using these things. Maybe, so how do I even know someone needs it? It's like, first off, let's try to make diet changes, lifestyle changes, use nutrients, fix insulin resistance, get inflammation down. In my career, I've seen hundreds of guys in this category, and I would say 99.99% were able to overcome their symptoms without adding in testosterone.
What amount of testosterone are you able to get people up to by fixing some of the dietary, sleep, and basic
Double.
supplement?
Easy double.
Doubling.
I've seen even 80% increases. I've seen people
Wow.
with totals at 300 go to 900. I've seen
Mhm.
triples. So the first thing is, I always start with like, you have to know what physiological norm is before you even want to talk about medicine, right?
Mhm.
So you typically are going to make on average between 6 to 8 milligrams a day of testosterone.
Mhm.
And 90-ish% from the testicles, 5 to 10% from the adrenals.
Okay.
That's why adrenals do play an important role.
Mhm.
That testosterone becomes more important in women because they
Mhm.
don't have the testicles that make it. So they get a larger percentage from their adrenals. Right?
Gotcha.
And so, all right, so you know that. So then how is testosterone typically? So you have free and total, right? Total, you're typically going to be at like a NG per DL kind of number. So somewhere from 300 to 1,000 or 1,100 on the high end, 1,100 on the high end, 300 on the low end, right? So that's your total. And then your free goes into the picograms, right? That's in your PG per ml. And so
Mhm.
that's usually between like 30 and 150. We want to at least be in the middle
Mhm.
to upper quarter. That's a pretty good place to be at, right? And again, the free can be impacted by sex hormone binding globulin and other things like that. So we have the total looks at the overall output, which is like 98%. The free looks at the 2 to 5%, but it looks at what's bioavailable.
Gotcha.
So that's a really important thing to look at.
But then a lot of these young people would say, well, okay, that's cool. I could be at 700, 800, naturally, but wouldn't I just get better results, become more of a man, be able to put on more strength, develop more if I was at 1,500?
At what cost though, right? At what cost? Yeah, I could buy a TV, a nicer car, put it on my credit card without the money in the bank. But there's always a cost to getting something that you have not earned the right way,
Mhm.
right? So there's always a cost there. So first off, and the things that you earn the right way, they tend to last. They tend to have staying power. When you put it on a credit card, you don't have the money there, it may get repoed in a year, right? And so the first thing is, okay, how much do we make? And you can do so much with supplements and nutrients. That's the thing,
Mhm.
right? If I felt like we couldn't do that, I wouldn't have symptomatic resolution, and then that would be a viable option. And maybe the older you get, now there is, because there's a natural decline of 1% per year. So if I have someone and that's maximized these things out and they're 60 and they've had like 20 years of, really crummy diet, then maybe that's a more viable option, but
Sure.
not in your 20s. And so you make about 6 to 7, maybe 8 a day, right? A female makes like 0.25, right? So totally different animal with women, very small amounts. The average doctor is giving like 1 to 150 milligrams
Mhm.
right away.
Mm.
And they give it in the muscle, which goes faster.
Mhm.
It absorbs way faster. And so the body's milking testosterone out throughout the day gradually. It's not like hitting it all at once,
Mhm.
right? And so the biggest problem doing it that way, it ignores physiological distribution and secretion. It gives a lot of it at once. And so you have this big peak and then valley drop. And
Mhm.
so that's going to allow a lot less stability in mood. And that high amount is not what's natural. And you're going to see FSH and LH like go super low. Those are the pituitary hormones that cause the sperm to be made
Mhm.
and causes the testosterone to be made. And so then the FSH drops, longer term, you may become infertile
Mm.
with chronically low FSH. That's why you're going to have the atrophy, right? You're going to have the shrinking testicles, right? Because of that, because that drop in LH. And so if you are going to do it, which I don't recommend when you're younger, because there's too many things that are natural that work and root cause things stay and last, is lower and smaller doses. So if
Mhm.
you're going to inject, it may be subcutaneously in the fat where you get more time release.
Mhm.
We may be doing it 3 days a week, which we can go much smaller dose. Maybe we're at like 12 milligrams every other day,
Mhm.
much smaller. We may even go start lower and then nudge your way up, and always run your estradiol with it. Because when you start to go too much estradiol, it's because you're aromatizing. It's too much. That's how you know to pull back.
Mhm.
A lot of doctors, when they give tea, they're very lazy and they will compound in arimidex or a aromatase inhibitor
Mhm.
with it, which is not good because too low of estrogen can actually impact your blood vessel health.
Interesting. So describe that more. So like so like estrogen does play a vital role in our health. So when
Yes,
somebody just decides, okay, I'm just going to blast testosterone, get my testosterone up very high, and maybe
correct.
take an aromatase inhibitor to sort of, oh yeah, I'll negate the bad effects by taking an aromatase inhibitor. Uh, why is it not that simple?
Not that simple because hormones have roles in the body even when you think they don't, right? And so we're not talking about lowering estrogen with like natural supplements like DIM or calcium glucarate or NAC. We're talking about shutting down enzymatic pathways. So we don't want to shut things down to zero,
Hmm.
right? So that's important. And we want to mimic natural production. And so for instance, you could do like an every other day or at least a 3 day a week as a minimum is better. People that do that notice more stability with their T. They notice less aromatization, if any, and they don't see their FSH and LH go to the floor.
Hmm.
And they have no testicular atrophy either. There's also other products that are out there like Natesto where you can microdose multiple times a day. You can get
Mm.
it set up where it's like 1 milligram of spray per spray, and you can do it in your nose like 2-3 times a day. That's like even the best because they've done that because they're like, all right, we have some guys that want to get pregnant, like want to have like a baby, but don't want to have fertility issues. And so
Hmm.
they found that to not even touch FSH or
It's
LH.
fascinating because like I know at some point in my life I'm going to get on these things like when my levels drop. Like luckily I'm high. Like last like level was like 847. I'm stoked on that. Feel really good. But yeah, at some point like I'm going to get on this stuff. I'm excited to see what's out there when I'm hitting that age.
Well, I mean, I took like for me, just getting my free testosterone a little bit higher via saw palmetto, NAC, ashwagandha, and even like an organ support. I feel like I'm 18.
Yeah.
So there's too many
Oh, those things
natural
are so
things.
yeah, and
This
yeah.
people have kind of made up their mind that this has to be the only thing. It's like stop. Like just be open to more non-invasive, more cost-effective things. Do that first,
For
right?
sure. And with so many of the substances that can boost testosterone, like NAC, like we've talked about a lot, the side effects are like other beneficial side effects. Like, oh, your skin might get better. The bags under your eyes might improve. Your lung function might improve. Oh,
Yeah.
your glutathione levels are now bumped up and your liver is functioning better. It's like those are side effects of N-acetylcysteine.
Yep.
And like ashwagandha in the evening, lowering that cortisol, like, oh, the side effects, like your sleep is better, you're less
Yep.
stressed. Like Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus, taking gear at a young age.
And test your tea in the morning, right? And then when you go to get tested, like I need to get tested again really soon, but try to make sure you have like a really good like week of like good sleep.
For sure.
Have your movement dialed in. Make sure you're like getting up for the test. You've gotten 8 hours of sleep. Like you're doing things that are going to just give you the best peek at where your levels are at. So,
Absolutely. Sweet. Well, I think that covers a lot.
So in summary of that, right? Mimic natural. Always start at the lowest end. Make sure you're not aromatizing. Try to go 3 to 4 times a week at a minimum is better. If you can go every day, even better. Sometimes the creams don't quite get enough. But again, the cream, it's easier to do creams daily. But if worst case, you can do spray, you can do look at a troche, you can do the sub-Q, which does time release better. So you could sub-Q Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that's a better way because it time releases. Muscle goes much faster. And start with physiological levels. So maybe like, I'm going to recommend 10 milligrams every other day, maybe go to 15, right? And start at it's harder to know because you're pulling that thing, that sub-Q needle. It's a very small amount and it's a little bit slow to push it in, but it's worth it.
And at what age have you put people on protocols like that? I mean, I know
for improving testosterone.
Yeah.
I mean,
in general.
So first off, most people, when they come in, they think they have testosterone problems. We test them. Their testosterone's not that bad. There's other things that are like adrenal, mitochondria. And again, like I said, estrogens, synthetic estrogens from the environment will shut down your LH. Okay. How does giving you more testosterone fix that? So a lot of times testosterone is more downstream and they're chasing some other symptomatic thing that they think testosterone is the key for. And so we try to just maximize everything else first.
So these synthetic estrogens from stuff like touching receipts, drinking out of bottles of plastic, eating bad food.
Yep.
So those can start to basically give people that feeling that they have low testosterone, but really what they need to look at is lowering these synthetic estrogens and helping the detoxification of
Start detox, especially don't heat things up in plastic. Get rid of your plastic water bottles, right? Try to be like, we're doing glass here, or at least stainless steel, much better. Don't heat anything up in plastic.
And what are your top 3 compounds for detoxifying some of those estrogens?
So easiest thing is going to be N-acetylcysteine, right? That's going to be great. You could throw kind of calcium to glucarate and DIM together, right? You could even put like a really good fiber or a really good binder.
Nice.
It's going to be a great way to kind of hit it. And then just remember, like a lot of dysbiosis and gut bacteria can influence estrogen detoxification. So bad gut bacteria can influence it. And then make sure you're pooping every day. Like you can reabsorb toxins if it's not moving out of your intestinal tract into the stool, into your, bathroom seat, if you will, right? You want to get that out. So
the detoxification pathways of the body, like you are detoxifying like estrogens, guys. Like you're detoxifying stuff that your body doesn't want. So it's like, I don't think people really like. It's like I'm a big fan of getting in the sauna, and people are like, oh yeah, the sauna, like you just sweat, might be good for your skin. It's like, no, there's studies showing that you're like sweating out heavy metals and BPA. It's like I'm doing it to help my health overall and like put on more muscle and recover from my workouts.
100%. And even just low grade things like the solution to pollution is dilution, right? Say it 10 times fast. The more you dilute the toxins, the easier it is to go out the kidneys.
For sure.
Right? That's like simple stuff. But NAC is a really good, simple one, especially when there's toxins in the brain. Glutathione has a harder time passing the blood-brain barrier. NAC can. So that's a good, and it's cheaper too.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a big thing for young adults. Like they're exposed to stuff. Like you're gonna eat food packaged in plastic. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So support those detoxification pathways.
100%.
I think that covers a lot. Is there anything else you want to mention? I mean, that gives people a lot to work with.
Yeah, I mean, just go to the more conservative things first, non-invasive stuff first. Get your levels tested. So when you come back 10, 20 years later, you have some baselines to look at. You can kind of see where you're at. Because I have my testosterone levels from where I was in my mid-20s. I'm the same or higher.
Yeah.
20 years later. So it's like, okay, I feel good about that. Like you can maintain, and I'm always trying to get better. Next, hair loss is the big thing. Yeah. Right? Hair loss is huge. And so first thing out of the gate, monitor your hair. Most people have to lose 30 to 40% of their hair before they even notice it, right? And so take pictures front and back. Do it after you shower. Your hair is dry. There's not a lot of excessive oil in there. And then get some pictures. And then the easiest first thing for me out of the gate, building blocks, right? Building blocks for your keratin in your hair, right? Collagen. Make sure you're digesting protein. You have natural DHT blockers and nutrients like selenium and zinc and copper. They can kind of naturally block actually DHT. So make sure those are getting high enough. And then we can look at blocking DHT internally and topically. A good DHT is like this testosterone metabolite. Its primary purpose is going to be in puberty development, right? Really important. Like they've done studies where people have this AR enzyme missing and they sexually keep their genitalia as children. They don't develop into adult genitalia, right? But they also never got hair loss.
Yeah.
So that's how we know this enzyme, just observationally was important, because these kids never got it. And then we see it like with castrates 100 years ago, right? That they would never have hair loss. And it's like, well, why? And so this DHT thing came about, and our receptor sites become more sensitive to it as we age. And so that's a thing. And so that DHT, that dihydrotestosterone, can miniaturize the follicle. And a typical follicle cycle goes anagen, which is your growth phase, right? 5 to 7 years, right? And then it goes to a transition phase called a catagen phase. The hair breaks off over like a 2 to 4 month standpoint. And then it rests for like 2 to 4 weeks in a telogen phase, right? And so each cycle we go through, the hair gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so utilizing nutrients that are natural anagen phase stimulators, castor oil, pumpkin oil, rosemary, right? Those are good things. Saw palmetto does help too, right? You could even go to like a cleaner version of minoxidil, which is pretty safe. Those stimulate the anagen phase, but you got to get that DHT down. And so my favorite way to do it conservatively is going to be saw palmetto internally, which does block DHT, all right? 30 to 50%. It's not a finasteride or a Propecia. It doesn't do the 70 or 80%, or the Avodart dutasteride, which is like 90 to 100, right? But it does systemically help. And then topically as well, because it'll also decrease DHT in the scalp, but it'll also block the androgen receptor sites from going into the receptor site. And
so they make like saw palmetto like gels or
a saw palmetto, like either a liquid in a topical, and just spreading out like 1 milliliter over the hair. Plus saw palmetto's got like vitamin E in it, so it's still, even if you're not doing it for like DHT, it's still good for your hair. So you can do it topical, and oral is going to give you the best result. And so I always recommend doing that conservatively before you go into like a medication. And then if let's say you had to go to a medication, now we're going to talk about microdosing, like a finasteride at low doses. We're talking like 0.1 milligrams versus 1. And we're going to do it in a topical liposomal form that does not go systemic, because most side effects you see with finasteride are going to be systemic in nature.
Gotcha.
And the lower dose is still going to, like that 0.1 milligrams versus the 1, even though it's 10 times less, it still has 80 to 90% of the same reduction in DHT. It's that close, because it's logarithmic. It's so potent. So if you're going to do it in the order of like the least invasive, the most natural, nutrients, diet, stress reduction, right? And then we can go into different herbs and botanicals, oral, and then topical.
Sweet.
Plus
Awesome.
the side effect profile of saw palmetto was like a little bit of like upset stomach.
Yeah.
There's like nothing. You don't have it. And again, even finasteride though, the side effect profile of that, it's typically 2%. It's a very small amount of people. But that being said, if you just go through the way I mentioned it, you're going to mitigate that side effect profile to non-existent.
Totally. Awesome, guys. Well, there's some looks maxing in a way for you for health. Like, there you go. Like, in a healthy way. Like,
and now just a couple other things, right?
Yeah.
We could add in like, there's like other like amplifiers, right? Amplifiers, something else you could do. So of course, diet and all that and sleep's like that's foundational before everything. But red light on your scalp is gonna be great. Microneedling at 1 to 1.5 millimeter depth, adding in GHKCU copper peptides, 2.5%. Excellent. You could also do a little bit of topical retinol on the scalp too, right? You could do that as well. And so those are a couple extra things that you can do. And as I mentioned, microneedling. Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. Maybe even a little bit of scalp massage, gentle. Yep.
Nice. Awesome. And we covered a lot of the skin stuff in the previous podcast, guys. So if you want to learn about acne in depth, go watch the previous podcast. It's in there. Leave any questions you guys have below. As always, like and subscribe. Dr. J, where can they find you if they want to work with you?
Excellent. Justinhealth.com. My name, Dr. J, Dr. Justin, JUSTINHEALTH.com. There'll be a Work Dr. J button on there. There'll be also podcast and video links there too. There'll be a link to my new book, The Thyroid Reboot, which I talk about all these things in that book. And even if you don't have thyroid, it kind of connects it to the big picture of everything else.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother. Fun times as always. Level up your health, guys. Take care of your health. Trust me, it'll make you a happier, healthier, more successful human being. Stay locked in. Check in with you guys soon. Peace.